Hello everybody, bNatural here and welcome to my Mage class matchup video. Today we're going to be focusing on how mages interact with other classes in mainly a 1v1 setting, as well as a couple strategies and tips that can be applied in both duels and team-based PvP. I'll include timestamps in the description so you can fast forward to whatever you're looking for, or watch it all and be prepared for everything. The Mage currently boasts two favorable matchups against Ranger and Berserker, one skill-based matchup against other mages, one situational matchup against Paladins, and an impossible matchup against Guardians. Contrary to popular belief, Berserkers have a fantastic niche in group PvP due to their AoE CC and damage, immunity rolls, and positional knock-up/knockdown abilities. You'll want to make them second or third priority on your list depending on your group setup. If your team is melee heavy, focusing the Berserkers is a good idea, as their positionals will prevent your Guardians and Paladins from capping or blocking. The most important thing to keep in mind against Berserkers is that they can have up to 5 charges of their dodge roll, which is a damage and CC immunity. In a 1v1 setting, it's not a bad idea to bait out the rolls and then re-engage when they no longer have them. This is possible because their rolls have a long 20 to 30 second cooldown per charge. Almost every Berserker will start the fight with a leap towards you, followed by a knock-up combo, then a knockdown kick. Try your best to both react to the leap and also to try to predict when he's going to leap on you. If Berserker starts running away, he's trying to buy time for his leap cooldown. The second he turns around, prepare your blink because he's going to jump on you. The key to this matchup is not getting continuously CC locked, maintaining your distance, and not losing all your bursts to a dodge roll. In the fight shown here, the Berserker chooses not to leap early, so I start with a CC chain using 3-2-2, then timed the freezing on my 2-2-2 so it would hit right as he leaped, in order to prevent the knockup. From there, I stance swapped into a 2-2-2, and thought I had killed him, hence the odd pause. But from that point on, you have your choice of doing a 3-3-3 for a little bit extra burst, or kiting it out until you have your next stance swap. Next we have our fellow ranged DPS class, the Ranger. Lucky for us, our interaction with Rangers boils down to 3 simple steps. Kill them before they kill us, avoid their snipe, and avoid their rapid fire. Left unchecked, they will burst through your mana shield and have damage left over to kill you. So if you see them using rapid fire, or you see them charging up a snipe, make sure that you distortion to immunity it, or blink behind them so they lose their targeting. Keep in mind that a non-chained snipe won't really do much damage. The one that you need to keep an eye out for is the one that usually follows the dagger throw combo. I recommend using a full burst rotation, including the stance swap, and get a 6-chain hit on them, and then mana shield afterward so that you can protect yourself just in case you didn't burst them down there. If you mana shield early, the Ranger will burn through your mana and you'll be left more or less defenseless against them. So just to recap, the main goal versus Rangers is to burst them before they burst you. You can do this by going for full damage, or by avoiding their damage using blink and other abilities, and using CC to win. Do not underestimate Ranger's ability based on what you see in faction chat, or you could end up like this, and this, and even this. Just as Rangers are our #1 priority targets, so are we for them, so always be on the lookout for a Ranger standing still. Now on to my personal favorite, the mirror matchup. Mage versus Mage, as you may have guessed, is a complete skill-based matchup. There's a lot of things you can do to give yourself an edge versus other mages, but the skill that decides the entire outcome is definitely Counterspell. There are many specific scenarios where you can look to counterspell an enemy player, but rather than go over each one of them individually, I will say that in general, Counterspell should be used when you have A, a giant chain coming up, a 6-chain attack, or B, when you can CC lock them with your 3 and 2 in your ice stance, and move on to your mixed stance to CC lock them with the 1000 ice element. Mage versus Mage is basically decided by an amalgamation of various techniques that a player can employ, such as using line of sight to cancel an important chain ability, blinking to immune a chain 3 or 6's high damage attack, blinking to cancel Counterspell, and using Counterspell to silence the enemy during his mana shield, so you can deplete his or her mana pool. And now, let's move on to our healing buddies, the Paladins. So Paladins are a very difficult fight for us, and even if all of the stars align, we're still at a disadvantage. However, here are the conditions that must be met. Condition 1. The Paladin must be using a battleground healing build. If he or she is using a protection interruption stance, we cannot win. Condition 2. Your counterspell cannot miss or be resisted, immune, or dodged in any fashion. Condition 3. You must crit some parts of your chain in order to do enough damage to burst the Paladin down. Only with all 3 conditions being met do we even have a chance of beating a Paladin. The premise behind fighting a Paladin is rather simple. You weaken the Paladin to around 40 to 60%, which usually takes around 1 to 3 chains. Then you save up a CC of some kind for when the Paladin starts to cast heal, or if he uses his immunity for it to wear off. Follow the CC up with a counterspell, then a full 6-chain burst. If you cannot kill a Paladin with the 6-chain burst, the fight will most likely be a loss since you can't sustain your mana after the recovery. Your best bet after the 6-chain is to continue applying constant pressure so the Paladin feels the need to go on the defensive. Cast longer spells if the Paladin is inside of an immunity, and don't forget your knockbacks for cancelling heals. The fight will take a while, so be cognizant of your mana pool, blink cooldown, and counterspell cooldown, so you can look for another burst window if it ever comes up. As I mentioned earlier, even if everything goes the way you want it to, it'll still be a very rough fight and there's a pretty good chance you'll lose. So if you find yourself having difficulty beating Paladins, don't get too frustrated. Against Guardians, make sure you memorize their immune and absorption shields, which is the yellow and blue icon respectively, and keep in mind which CCs they've used, and the 90-second cooldown on their 30% max HP plus heal. Memorize this chart. With all these skills in mind, continue to damage the Guardian in between CCs, and you'll be able to achieve victory fairly quickly. You know, in some other universe where their taunt and stuns aren't available in multiple different chains in the same stance. Luckily, Guardians can no longer crit us for 9k as they did on day 1, so use your mana shield and slowly chip away at their health as the realization that you cannot ever use a spell past chain 2 slowly creeps up on you like a spider that you thought you killed. As the crippling depression sets in, you'll realize that without high chains, you're unable to do enough damage to even break 30% of the Guardian's health in the course of 90 seconds. Which of course is the cooldown of their 30% heal if you see where this is going. Coupled with their non-stop stun plus taunt combinations, silences, knockups, and bleeds, you'll soon realize that the best way to deal with a Guardian is to exchange, nay, give, sexual favors to the person playing the class in power, so you can feel like you're making even the smallest difference. Let's call it the Lewinsky. Seriously, if... I mean... Help me! Hey guys, I wanted to actually go ahead and take a couple minutes here to speak about the builds that I'm using. Not much has changed from the previous video, but let's go ahead with the main build that I've been using for the majority of my playtime. So we're currently running the cold plus mixed tactic combination. For our cold tactic, you're going to go ahead and take your base cold tactic skill all the way on the right. This is going to give us a nice 20%, I think actually it's a 16% additional damage increase currently on the stance swap, which is really nice. And as far as our 2-2-2 tree line goes, we're going to take it down to Frostbite, and you're going to want to reduce the cooldown on this so that you can get to our freezing, which is the instant cast, which is the instant stun. Get to it as soon as possible because this is the only cooldown that's relevant currently here. As far as our icy wave goes, you can actually choose between cast time or damage increase. Personally, I'm going with the damage increase because I feel like if there's ever a situation where I can cast a 2-second spell, I can sure as hell cast a 2.5-second spell. So I went ahead and went with the damage increase, but you're welcome to do whichever fits your playstyle. For our Frozen Ground chains, the only one that I took was the Frigid Spear's damage increase. If there was like a cooldown reduction here, I may have considered it. I mean, there is some on the other trees, but on this particular Frostbite, there is not. So didn't touch it. And for Magic Shot, I took 3 points for the mana return, since most of our mana comes from our blink anyway. Moving on to the Mixed Elements tactic, our stance itself is all the way on the right, just the same as the cold, and this is going to give us an 80% damage increase on top of the 100% damage increase that we automatically get when we switch into cold stance. First skill that we use is generally going to be Frostbite, our 2 skill, or I'm sorry, our Biting Cold, and I have seen this crit for 4 or 5k before thanks to that stance swap, so go ahead and take that, take it all the way onto the right side. As far as our 2 chain goes, this is the chain that we usually go to for our single target 6 chain burst. So you definitely want to lower the cooldown on Frostbite. If you put all 4 points towards the right, it'll give you enough cooldown reduction to take it down to a 16-second cooldown, which keeps it in line with the 15-second cooldown of Static Charge. For Frigid Spear, naturally being our burst, we're going to take it to the left and increase the damage all the way. For our Chilling Wind combination here, you only really need to use Chilling Wind for one of 2 combos. It's either to have a second Icy Wave, so you can go ahead and customize your Icy Wave the same way you did on the previous page, or it's to go into a Gust to give you an additional CC to interrupt a heal or just get that little bit extra damage when you're about 1,000-1,500 damage off from killing someone in a chain. So don't need to put any points here, but definitely modify your Icy Wave because you're gonna want to be using this in PvP more often. For the non-chain skills, we're going to be doing the exact same thing as before. I put 3 points into our blink, or I believe it's called flicker once you put it down here, for the max mana return. I'm taking Disenchant for the damage increase, so that I can have the extra burst and oomph that I need. For Counterspell, I've got it maxed out all the way with the silence duration increase, so we can silence more often and for longer. And finally, the Mana Shield, simply 1 point into the mana consumption reduction on the top is all we need. And this will leave you with 567 Rose Stones to use for 2 extra abilities that you want to modify if you would like. For the ability section, it's my standard ability page that I use for every single build. It goes enough onto the bottom right to get the ability power increase, and enough on the bottom left to get acceleration. Simply 1 point for the 40 intellect on the top left, and 3 points to get to the hit rating on the top right. Thanks again for watching, everyone. The support you've all shown me the past 2 weeks has been tremendous, and I really hope to continue making videos for everyone. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try my best to answer them as I'm able to. And please, let me know if you find a way to deal with Guardians. And outros are hard to think of.